Hello everybody! I still don't know how to do introductions, so I decided to go British. Anyway, let's talk about the literary canon. She is racist, she is sexist, she is classist, and definitely a load of other problematic things. There's obviously merit in reading classics. Anyone can tell you that. You can find a billion articles about that. You can ask your English teacher about that. But the classics gatekeep hard. Different cultures is kind of an ambiguous phrase that I'd shy away from using in order to describe this lack of diversity in the literary canon, because it doesn't do enough to explain said gatekeeping problems. What I mean by that is, well, an author of color, for example, should not have to work 100 times as hard as a white author to receive the same levels of literary merit. That literary merit is composed of arbitrary standards that come from dead European white guys. So, yes, I love the classics, but I'm also genuinely working to expand my tastes and my reading material and my knowledge in general. Because of my education thus far, the first two sets of books I'm going to be recommending today are not super diverse, simply because for a long time I didn't realize how important it was to seek out literature and art that differed from weird art. Weird being Western, educated, industrialized, rich, and democratic. So, stick around. I will be recommending books that I'm excited to read about, with characters and authors who are Black, Indigenous, LGBT, and more fun things that actually have good representation. I want to get my hands on these as soon as possible, and my birthday's in March, in case anyone needs a reminder. But I wouldn't mind a Halloween gift. Anyway, here are some modern books that read like classics. Normal People by Sally Rooney. This is a genius book that subverts the traditional tropes of classic romance novels. It's all about unhealthy love. Also, the show recently came out on Hulu, so I'm thinking about doing a comparison video, but we'll see. I have to finish the show first. So Much for That Winter by Dorothy Norris. This is extremely simple in format and equally profound. It's touching and beautiful and just feels like art for your soul, and there's not much else I can say about it other than you'll read it and feel like you want to take a deep breath afterwards in the best kind of way. The Summer Book by Tove Jennison. This is by the creator of Moomin. I don't know much about Moomin, but it's super cute. And this book, as well, is a really charming little book that's an awesome read for the summer. It's about a little girl and her grandmother who live on an island and experience life, and it's really, really sweet. Flights by OLGA TOKARCZUK. I'm praying that I'm saying that right. This is a book that is maybe a masterpiece, which isn't something I say lightly. I think while this book is super long, it's broken up into little sections that are more easy to digest, and it explores movement and the interconnectedness between humanity and movement as a concept and the human body and soul and history. And it breaks a story into vignettes, into fragments, and it's just gorgeous, so I definitely recommend that. Cassandra by Christa. If you know literally anything about the Trojan War, you will probably love this book. It's from the perspective of Cassandra, who is a woman blessed to be able to predict the future and cursed to have no one believe her. It's a gorgeous read that plays with time and honestly haunts you with its stories. It is really dark at times and really good also. The Perfect Nanny, also known as Lullaby in the UK by Leila Slimani. This book is chilling, like chilling. It creeps under your skin. And it's not about anything supernatural, it's just about deeply real characters, and somehow that's so much scarier. There's not much I can say about this without spoiling it, so I'm going to leave it at that. But definitely don't read if you are faint of heart. Before I get into my list of classics that are easy to digest, I do have some reading tips. The first one I'd recommend is trying different formats. I found that I really love audiobook versions of classic novels, and they make the language really easy to follow when it's a good reader who makes the language come to life. I like to switch between ebooks, audiobooks, and physical copies of books, and I would definitely recommend doing the same thing if you're able. Also, trying to relieve yourself from annotating, I found is super helpful sometimes. Everybody likes different things, so sometimes annotating helps break down really dense or complicated texts. But what I found instead of doing this is kind of nice is just looking up summaries if the text is particularly dense. And I don't find any shame in using SparkNotes if I really need help with a chapter, or if I pick a book up after a while of not reading it and I just need a refresher because there's a lot going on and a lot of characters. In the end, just trust your gut and have patience when you're trying to understand a text, because more often than not, it'll become clearer simply with more reading. The story usually tells itself. Is that cliche? Does that make sense? Anyway, now we're on to our final section, the easy to digest classics. The first one on the list is Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. This plot is relatively easy to follow, but it's full of drama and tons of amazing characters. It's just really fun and delightful and smart and yearny. If you like to yearn, you have to have read this book already, and if not, please do yourself the favor. The Stranger by Albert Camus. This is the nihilist novel. It has super simple language that grips you because of the stark indifference of the protagonist in a really chilling way, and it just works. This is good because it also secretly makes it easier to digest because the language is so stark and simple. This is also good with a book called The Mersault Investigation, which unpacks the racism of the stranger, but to be fair, requires a critical eye itself, but it's also a good read. Invisible Cities by Italo Calvino. This deserves to be read aloud because I guarantee it will be the most elegant thing you've ever read in your life. Beauty spills from every page of this book. Don't even bother with a highlighter because you'd wind up with a totally yellow book. It is gorgeous. The Country Girls by Edna O'Brien. This is maybe the easiest read on this list. It's a novel about a girl who grows up in the shadow of her best friend, who is super shallow. It's also a really tragic book about how trauma in her life slips into every crack without her even realizing it. The Awakening by Kate Chopin. This novella changed my life. I don't know how to explain how gorgeous it is. It's definitely best read in the summertime, and it's about, as the title implies, the awakening of a woman, not only into her sexuality, but her freedom as a woman in a world that requires her to stay in a cage. It is so beautiful. Please, please pick this book up if you have the chance. Finally, here's a list of books I'm excited to read soon that are also classics or read like classics. The Color Purple by Alice Walker. The Bluest Eye by Toni Morrison. The God of Small Things by Arundhati Roy. They're There by Tommy Orange. Half of a Yellow Sun by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. Oranges Are Not the Only Fruit by Jeanette Winters. Giovanni's Room by James Baldwin. And Maurice by E.M. Forster. Please let me know if you have any other books like this, and feel free to recommend stuff in the comments if you'd like. I have a TBR list that is just about 700 books long, but I always like suggestions. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you sometime soon.